What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It Came From Beyond the Video Store Shelves, the video podcast where I continue the journey through all of the unwatched films in my VHS collection. And we're going to check those out one by one, and then we'll come here to talk about them a little bit. And today we are doing, I believe this is episode 13. We have another horror movie to talk about today. But before we get to that, I have received some fan mail from one of you guys out there, and we decided that we'll go ahead and open this up and check out what's inside. It's addressed to Clairvius Video YouTube channel. So yeah, let's check out what this nice fan was kind enough to send me. Hopefully it's no body parts or anything like that, so if anything we could open this on video for proof, some evidence. But I couldn't find my razor knife, so we're gonna have to use these big fancy ass scissors. But yeah, let's cut this open and check out what's inside. I probably would have done better with like a knife or something. Maybe I could turn these into a knife. That works pretty good. Yeah, let's just get rid of those scissors. Put those somewhere out the way. Oh shit. I cut his note. Okay. That's alright, I can still read it. He put it on top right there. Let's see. I don't know. I guess I could read this out loud. And this is from Adam Alvarez. So yeah, thank you so much, Adam Alvarez, for sending me something. It's really kind of you. You are from Connecticut. So Adam Alvarez from Connecticut sent this in. He says, I found your channel while researching how to make VHS movies. I now have a new hobby thanks to you. Here are some extra tapes I had that I think will be really good for the podcast. Hope to hear what you think about them in future episodes. Thanks, Adam Alvarez. Alright, well, let's check out what Adam sent us. Apparently there's going to be some movies in here. We have Headhunter. This is an Academy release from, let's see, 1989 it says. I don't believe I've seen this one before, so that'll be cool to check out. This is another Academy. This one has a flap at the bottom, which is nice. And it came from, I don't know if you could see that, Dan's Video from Green Bay. Okay. None of these have mold on them. That's nice. This is Terra at Red Wolf Inn. This is another tape I haven't heard about. I've never seen this. It's like a buffet table with some human body parts there. This looks pretty cool. I do not see a date on this. So Terra at Red Wolf Inn. That one looks interesting. We have one more in here, and it is an Embassy release of Rituals. Now, I haven't seen this yet, but I do know what this is. I have heard of this. this is one of these movies where I believe some people go camping and they end up being hunted by locals. It's kind of almost like a surviving the game with Ice-T. In fact, I have another movie. I don't think it's on a shelf on display right now. No, I don't see it. There's a film called Southern Comfort that I watched a while back, and I thought it was really good. And a friend of mine, I told him about the Southern Comfort movie, and a friend of mine was saying, if you like that, you should really watch Rituals, because this is supposedly one of the better movies of that kind of genre. So this is super cool. I'm really looking forward into watching Rituals. But in fact, all three of these movies, I don't have any of these, and they would all make for great episodes. So again, man, Adam, thank you so much, man, for sending us some tapes. I can't wait to watch them. And as always, to all you guys out there watching, I really appreciate all the support and stuff that I've been getting through this channel. It makes it worth doing. So thanks again, man. I can't wait to watch these movies. So let's kind of stick all this back in there. I'll put this aside and we'll get into... Alright, let's get into the movie for this week's episode. And tonight we watched a Ozploitation movie from Australia from 1987, and it's called Contagion. And it says, not since Stephen King's The Shining has there been such a harrowing story of a man haunted by a house and its inhabitants, a house that causes him to commit unspeakably violent acts. And this is a Sony release, which is really cool because I don't have many Sony released horror films. The only other one I could kind of think offhand that I have is I believe Spookies was a Sony release tape, but I could be wrong. I don't see it on the shelf behind me close enough to grab and double check, but I think Spookies was a Sony as well. Anyway, this kind of came out in this period in the 80s where there was kind of a boom in Australian horror movies and kind of women in prison films that they kind of dub Ozploitation. They was releasing stuff like Razorback and films like that, and Contagion was one of these films. So basically, what Contagion is about is you have this guy Mark, and Mark works for like some kind of office, some kind of accounting type office, and his boss sends him one night to meet with a potential client. So he has this meeting, and along the way he runs into these people in the woods that are wrong turning people. They're taking people off this roadway. So Mark is going down the road and he passes a woman being abducted. She's being drugged into the woods, and this was a woman who earlier hitchhiked with an 18-wheeler driver, and this driver decided that it was gas, grass, or ass time, and she didn't put up for gas, and she didn't want to give up any ass, so he decided to pull over and just throw this girl out of his truck whenever she denied his sexual advances. So he leaves this poor girl in the middle of nowhere, and she comes across these fucking homeless people that's living in the woods. And while Mark is passing, one of these guys is dragging this girl back into the woods from the road. So Mark decides that he's going to stop and help out. He's going to try to intervene. So Mark gets out of his car to go and try to help this woman, and he comes across one of these, people, that took this woman, and they're sitting on like this bench seat out of an old vehicle in the middle of the woods, and he's starting to undress her. So he's going to rape this woman. And Mark tries to tell him, leave the girl alone, just let her go. But what Mark doesn't know is that he's not the only one. That there's more, homeless people out there doing this shit. So one of these kidnappers, accomplices, come up behind Mark with a crossbow and, kind of decides that they're going to take him as well. So Mark tries to escape. He kind of, wrestles with this guy a little bit, but the guy ends up getting the better of Mark, and he decides that once he catches Mark that he's going to rape Mark, which they didn't show the butt rape on screen. It's kind of implied. The guy unzips his pants, and then they cut to him bringing Mark to their camp, this campfire where they're all sleeping and stuff, and Mark's pants is pulled down, obviously insinuating that there was some butt rape going on. And that's where Mark finds out that there's actually 3 people out there that's doing this, backwoods abduction, rape and murder type thing. That there's 2 guys and there's also a woman there with them. So, they end up all going to sleep. And Mark wakes up before these kidnappers wake up. And he decides that he's going to try to get away. So he finds this knife and he's trying to cut this rope that bound his hands together, when one of these guys wakes up and tries to go back and recapture Mark. And Mark ends up stabbing and killing this guy and running off into the woods. And he runs for a little while, but then he becomes overly exhausted, either from his injuries or the traumatic events, and he faints. He falls. And when he comes to, he sees this woman there, this properly dressed woman, who's obviously not one of these kidnappers. And she is gonna help Mark. She tells Mark that her house is close to come with her. So Mark follows this girl, and she leads him to this big ass mansion that's just in the middle of the woods there, where she introduces him to another woman, as well as a older eccentric billionaire who's staying there. All 3 of them are staying there. These 2 women, Helen and Chloe, and this billionaire Robert. So he's talking to Robert, and Robert's telling him about computers and what he does for a living, and how he got all this money, and how there's this big job coming up that he's gonna make millions and millions of dollars on. And meanwhile, one of these females, Helen, is kind of coming on to Mark as well. And they're talking for a little while, and then Chloe decides that it was time for Mark to leave. So Helen is going to lead Mark back to the road now that he's safe. That way he could go back and do whatever he has to do. So Helen leads Mark to this road, and kind of comes on to him, and kisses him and tells him, no matter what, promise me that you'll come back here, after, you get situated or whatever, that you'll come back and you'll visit us. So Mark starts to walk down this road because he doesn't have a vehicle anymore. The kidnappers took his vehicle. He walks for a little while, then he faints. And, when he comes back to, he's in this hospital where all his wounds and things are being treated. And that's whenever his girlfriend comes back into the picture. So his girlfriend shows up, and she's talking to the nurse and the doctors. And Mark is not speaking at all. He won't tell anybody what happened. He won't talk to the girlfriend. He won't talk to the nurses, because in Mark's mind, all he's thinking about is this invitation to go back to this mansion and all this money that Robert was talking about, and the possibility of maybe a little fooling around with these women, with Helen and Chloe. So he ends up, after the girlfriend leaves the hospital, he ends up breaking out of the hospital, where he walks to this gas station where this poor guy is in this mom and pop gas station, which was also rented VHS tapes. And this poor dude's in this gas station trying to rent a porno from the from this little mom and pop station. And Mark steals the guy's car to go back to the mansion to meet meet Robert and these girls. So he steals this car, finds his way back to this mansion, and he goes to talk to Robert again, kind of hinting around that he's interested in this business deal, in whatever Robert's doing. So he decides that he's going to spend the night there. He was invited to spend the night there. He ends up having sex with Chloe, one of the ladies that it was said that both women wanted to be with him, but they decided that Chloe would go first. So he sleeps with Chloe. He spends the night, and when he wakes up, he's talking to Robert, and Robert tells him about this business and this way of life that he has and how he made all this money, and he calls it the threefold path. And he decides that maybe he'll let Mark into this threefold path with him, and Mark could be a billionaire. He could have money beyond his wildest dreams, as well as these women. He could have the money, Helen and Chloe. But if Mark wanted all that stuff, he was going to have to prove that he was the type of person to follow the threefold path, and that it took a special type of person to be able to live this lifestyle, to do these things. And that you had to be ruthless, and that you had to be able to do difficult things that normal people couldn't do. But Robert told him that is what it took, to live this life, to be a billionaire, to have the women. So he tells Mark that, look, you're going to have to, go home and do something to prove to me that you're the type of person to be in this venture with me, to be on the threefold path. So Mark ends up going home, and he decides that he's going to murder one of his business partners. So he goes, he murders this poor guy, and then he goes back to his house to meet his girlfriend. And of course, the girlfriend's concerned about him. Where have you been? What happened? You're not telling anybody what's going on. And then, Robert decides that, he's over with the relationship and stuff. He wants to take the money out of their savings account, his part of the money that he felt was his, and he was going to use that capital to join the threefold path, because Robert told Mark that he would need a little bit of starting capital to get going. So, he's taking this money. He kind of gets into an altercation with the girlfriend, and, he threatens to throw his girlfriend off of a balcony and murder her. He tells her that, look, no one's going to stand in my way. This is what I'm going to do. But he ends up backing out. He ends up not killing the girlfriend. And he just takes the money and, he's going to go back to this manor. And that really, made the girlfriend worry that something is mentally not right with Mark. So, Mark goes back to this manor. He goes to meet with Robert and the girls and tell them what he'd done, prove that he's ready to be in the threefold path. But in the meantime, Mark's girlfriend is kind of trying to figure out what's going on. She's talking to doctors and stuff to try to get Mark help, because she thinks, Mark is having some kind of mental issue that coincides with this event that happened to him. And she ends up knowing another guy that has an airplane. And she knows where Mark is going. She knows Mark is going to this, back to wherever this house is. And she kind of knows what area it's in because she had to go to the hospital after, his incident. So she convinces this guy to do a flyover with her so they could try to find out where Mark is. And in the meantime, Mark is back at this mansion. He's telling Robert that, he took care of it. He murdered this guy. He ends up having a three-way with both of these women, Chloe and Helen. They end up all sleeping together. So, Mark's feeling pretty good about himself. He spends the night again. At this point, he thinks he's pretty much a partner with Robert. So they wake up in the morning, and he goes outside with Chloe. And, they're going to feed some animals. And so, they're sitting there, they're making out in the front yard. And in the meantime, Mark's girlfriend is flying over in this airplane. And this guy is telling him, the only kind of building around here is this house down here where, years ago this guy went crazy and killed his family and murdered all kind of people. And they fly over this old house, and they see Mark kind of by himself in the yard in front of this fucking shack, dancing around in circles. And that's when you realize that, Robert, Chloe, Helen, this big mansion, none of it's real. It's all in Mark's head. Where, in reality, he's in the middle of the woods in this rundown ass shack where all of these murders were committed. So, as the wife is flying over in this airplane with her friend, it cuts back to Mark, and he's making out with Chloe, and Chloe stops and goes, what is that airplane? Why is that airplane flying so close? Do you know these people? And Mark's trying to deny that he knows who's in this airplane. Well, Chloe tells Robert about this airplane, and they all confront Mark. And they basically tell Mark, look, our secret's out now. They know where you're at. And now you have to be punished. You're going to have to kill these people. You're going to have to kill your girlfriend. And you're going to have to get rid of this pilot. Because they know about us. They know what's up. So, they send Mark out again and they tell him, look, if you want to be, rich and you want to be in this threefold path, you're going to have to fucking take care of this problem. So Mark goes out, to kill his wife and this guy. But instead, he kills the owner of this company that he works for. And then he decides that I don't want to kill my girlfriend. Instead, I'm going to go where my girlfriend works at this business, and I'm going to convince one of her co-workers, this attractive woman that works with my wife, to come with me. And I'm going to offer her to Robert to kind of make up for the situation. So he goes, he convinces this girl to come with him, and she's obviously into to Mark. She's into being with Mark. So Mark convinces this girl, look, come with me. I'm going to bring you to this party. I want to introduce you to some people. And Mark tells her, look, me and my girlfriend broke up. We're not together no more. Now we could be together. And he takes this girl to this mansion to give her to Robert. And in the meantime, Mark's girlfriend shows up at work. And, she's asking, where's this worker at? And the other worker there was like, well, she left with Mark and they're going to this party. And of course that pisses Mark's girlfriend off. So she goes back, meets with her friend, gets back in the airplane, and they're like, let's go back to that house and see if Mark brung this girl out there. So they're flying over there. In the meantime, Mark shows up in the woods with this girl where he sees this mansion and shit, but this girl doesn't see the mansion. She sees this fucking rundown ass place, and she starts to freak out. And then Mark ends up having to pursue and murder this girl as well. And in the meantime, his girlfriend and this other guy's flying out to this house, and they realize that something is wrong with their airplane. Mark sabotaged their airplane, so they start to crash. And that's when, it goes back to Mark talking to Robert, and he's like, look, everything's taken care of. I sabotaged this airplane. They're going to crash. Nobody's going to suspect nothing. There was this other girl. I killed her too. And then things kind of start to get weird. Mark kind of starts to freak out. And then, all of a sudden he kind of comes to, and he's in this shack. Meanwhile, this airplane crashes, and the pilot is murdered, but Mark's girlfriend survives. So she limps out, and she's going to try to find this house in Mark. And, she finally shows up, and Mark's there in this fucking house, and he's freaking out. And there's all these dead bodies in this house. And the whole time, Mark is starting to hallucinate his girlfriend as being these homeless people that, raped and tried to kidnap him. So now he's trying to murder his girlfriend. And it's out there, man. It is an out there movie. It's kind of even hard to explain what's going on in this. But honestly, I fucking dug this, man. I thought it was good. And, I'm going to give it a 6. I thought it was pretty fucking good. The only downfall to Contagion is the murder scenes are really lacking. It's not really gory. They show some stuff, but it's not gory at all. And I think better, more graphic murder scenes would have really pushed Contagion to being a fucking badass movie. If there was just a little bit better on their gore, I mean, this would have been really a high-end fucking movie that would have really stood out. That's kind of what held Contagion back, is just this lack of gore. Because, man, the story, I mean, it sounds kind of out there and hard to follow, but it wasn't. It was really well done. It was a super good story. I didn't get bored at all watching this. It was just good, man. I didn't, halfway through when you find out that all this shit was in Mark's head, I didn't see that coming at all. The only thing story-wise that was kind of lacking is they didn't really explain why he was seeing these people in this mansion. Was that something that happened to a lot of people? And, they kind of hinted around that there were people before him. Helen, Chloe, and Robert kind of hinted to the fact that they've tried to bring people in before and it didn't work out. They didn't have what it took to be a part of the threefold path. So that kind of leads me to believe that these people that was living in the woods that, raped Mark and was killing people might have been also people that tried to join this imaginary threefold path. That maybe, certain people who stumbled across this abandoned manor where all these murders took place, and they have these ghosts and shit out there, that maybe this is happening to other people as well. So these homeless people went through what Mark was going through previously. It was a fucking good movie, man. The acting was really good in it. The story was great. It just not quite there with the murder and, the killing scenes in this just wasn't quite up to where it needed to be. A little bit better, and this movie would have fucking been badass. So it would have been top shelf, in my opinion, at least. But it's definitely something you should check out, man. I really enjoyed this. This is something that I'll go back and watch again, which is cool. This was probably one of the better movies I've watched so far. But the bad news about Contagion is, if you want to watch this, and I think you should, you're kind of limited on options, because this is one of those horror movies that you kind of want to collect VHS for, because this has never gotten a Blu-ray release. In fact, it didn't get a DVD release. It's not streaming anywhere. If you want to watch Contagion, you really only have two options. You have the VHS, and there was also a Laserdisc release, if Laserdisc are your things. If you want to get up halfway through the movie to flip this big ass record around, you could get a copy of Contagion that way. The good news is it's not super expensive, at least the VHS. I have no clue what the Laserdisc sells for. I have a couple Laserdisc, just because I think they look cool as shit with the huge artwork. But I don't watch Laserdisc just because, I don't want to fucking get up and flip the disc halfway through. They did make some Laserdisc players that would flip automatically, but those things are fucking super expensive. Anyway, yeah, man, if you want to watch Contagion, you're going to have to track down a VHS to this. I do believe this is a tape that sells under $20. And it's worth it, man. I really enjoyed it. Track down a copy. I recommend it if you haven't watched it. This is one that I hope, it would be nice to see get a Blu-ray release. Maybe, there's some gore in there that was edited out of the films and shit. Especially being that this is an Australian film. Sometimes it kind of got tricky with horror films, where they had to cut a bunch of shit out in order for the movie to be released in the U.S. I don't know if that's the case with Contagion. I don't know if there's a gorier cut of this film, like they are with some other films. But yeah, man, I hope to see this on Blu-ray or something one day, or streaming. It'd really be nice to kind of bring this tape back to life, because unfortunately, as of right now, this is stuck in VHS land, which is, sucks for a lot of people. Really cool for me, because all I watch is VHS tapes, so it works out. It's one of them things that kind of, just helps out whenever people ask, well, why you buy a bunch of VHS tapes? Why you collect VHS? Because, fact of the matter is, there's a bunch of shit that you can't watch anywhere else. There's a bunch of shit that's only on VHS that's nowhere else. And if I want to watch Contagion, I can pull it off the shelf. I don't have to worry about finding it. Anyway, that's gonna be it, guys, for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We still have a bunch of movies to go through. The next episode, I'm probably going to do one of those movies that our good friend sent us. I mean, that was really nice of him. I really appreciate it. And we'll check out one of those next. And yeah, man, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging around, and I'll catch you guys later.